You need to get married and have a child. You're not getting any younger." Sharon replayed those words in her mind. She was driving home from her mother's house and had just received a brand new lecture about what a loser she was. She sighed while focusing on the road. Her mother was technically correct. At 36, she had no prospects for a husband, and her time for having a child was running out. She looked at her passenger seat and saw the pamphlet her mother had shoved in her hands. Adopting is a great option, and they're letting single people do it now. Read this. It has all the information. "Are you Ms. Carter?" "Sharon Carter," he asked, and she nodded reluctantly. "My name is Nicholas Peters, and I believe you adopted my son." The older woman was relentless, but Sharon had no interest in adoption. It wasn't for her, especially as a single woman. She wanted a husband to start a family with, although she was relatively content with her life now. Still, it felt like society viewed her as nothing because she hadn't reached certain milestones in life. She looked back at the road, trying to forget about that stupid adoption brochure, and she had to push down the brakes with desperate force. Something was in the middle of the road, and she barely managed to stop the car at the time. After taking off her seatbelt, she rushed out of the car and saw a child standing right in the middle of the dirt road. She lived in New Mexico and typically took this route to get to her mother's house. "Kid, what are you doing in the middle of the road? Where are your parents?" She questioned breathlessly, the adrenaline still pumping through her veins. "I'm waiting for my uncle," the kid responded as if it was the most normal thing in the world. Sharon asked him for more details, and the boy stated that his uncle left him there because he had to pick up something and would be right back. How long ago was this? She wondered, but how could the boy estimate the time correctly? "What about your mommy?" "She went to the hospital and never returned," the kid answered, and his words broke Sharon's heart. She closed her eyes in pain and told the kid to get in her vehicle. They would wait for her uncle safely inside with the air conditioning on. She gave him some of the leftover lunch her mother had packed, and he loved it. His name was Stewie. "Stewie, why don't you come to my house? We'll contact someone and find your uncle from there," Sharon suggested, and the boy couldn't do anything but nod his head and smile. They talked during the drive, and Sharon discovered how bright Stewie was. He was also pretty funny and had the best laugh in the world. She was delighted with the kid for some odd reason, and she decided to call the cops the following day. They told her that if his uncle didn't appear to pick up the child, he would be taken by CPS and put in the system. But Sharon couldn't allow that. She talked to the assigned social worker and immediately started procedures to become his foster parent. Suddenly, her mother's adoption pamphlet didn't seem so stupid because she read it intently, but the process could take years. Luckily, Stewie was officially placed in her care. His uncle never appeared or seemed to want him at all. Several years went by, and Sharon became Stewie's mother officially, which pleased her mother immensely. Stewie was in high school years later, and Sharon loved being his mother. He was amazing at everything and excelled in the math club, which had meetings every day after school. That's why she was alone at home when the doorbell rang. A strange man was right outside, but she recognized him for some reason. He was an older version of Stewie, and Sharon was afraid for the first time in many years. Was this Stewie's horrible uncle? "May I help you?" she asked worriedly. "Are you Miss Carter?" "Sharon Carter," he asked, and she nodded reluctantly. "My name is Nicholas Peters, and I believe you adopted my son." Sharon wanted to be surprised, but his face said it all. He looked exactly like her son. It was all the proof she needed, but still, she was worried. "Oh, well, yes, but why are you here?" She stumbled on her words. "I was hoping to talk to you, and I wanted to meet Stuart," Nicholas stated, trying to peek into the house, hoping for an invitation. "He prefers being called Stewie," Sharon replied, breathed a sigh, and gestured for Nicholas to come inside. She offered him tea and cookies, and they sat down in her living room. "So," she began, "it's been years since I adopted Stewie. Why did you come here now? How'd you find me? You never mentioned anything about a father." "Well, I guess I should start at the beginning," Nicholas hesitated, linking his hands and squaring his shoulders in preparation. "Stewie's mother and I broke up when she got pregnant, but I was around a little after the birth. However, I had a horrible job. It paid nothing, and she could barely work at all. I was offered a new job in Europe, and I couldn't give it up, so I left. But it was after a big fight with my ex. She blocked me from contacting Stewie, and I thought that was fine. I tried to move on with my life, but I'd have come to regret that choice. Go on, Sharon urged, sipping her tea and enthralled with the story. Well, I recently learned that my ex died in the hospital when Stewie was 4. Her brother, Jack, told me. I had finally found his contact. When I asked what happened with the kid, he said he left him somewhere. I demanded more explanation, but he hung up and blocked me, he continued, his upper lip gnawing on his bottom one. Oh my God, I hate that man, she commented but told Nicholas to continue. Well, I didn't know what else to do but hire a private investigator who managed to find a report about someone finding a kid in the middle of the road. Then he discovered that someone had adopted him, and I paid him to give me your address. I know it's an invasion of privacy, and I'm so sorry, but I haven't shared it with anyone else, and I don't mean the two of you any harm, Nicholas explained. I also don't want any money. Then, what do you want, Mr. Peters? Sharon wondered, not knowing how to treat this man yet. I guess I want to know him. If he agrees, of course. I managed to become successful, but leaving him has been my biggest regret for many years. I want a chance to make things right with him, Nicholas replied, looking at Sharon in earnest. Sharon sighed heavily and shook her head, not believing what was happening. It's all about Stewie. He's old enough to decide this, she said seriously, and coincidentally, Stewie walked in. He was tired from math club, but Sharon introduced him to Nicholas, and they recounted his story once again. The teenager was hesitant, but she could tell how curious he was about his father. After all, Sharon had never had a boyfriend, and his only father figures were his male teachers at school. Therefore, she encouraged him to bond with Nicholas. Eventually, they built a great bond, and Sharon was surprised when Nicholas offered to pay for Stewie's school and even tried to pay her back for raising his son. But she didn't accept. She was just glad that her son was happy with his father in the picture. When Stewie left for college, Sharon and Nicholas stayed in contact. They discovered a lot about each other, including their mutual tastes. Soon enough, they started dating and decided to get married. Stewie walked his mother down the aisle with the happiest smile in the world.